And everybody, welcome to the Sunday, August 11th edition of the Arkansas Diamond Report. I'm Jason Patterson. Got Dudley coming in here in just a second. Also, make sure I want to tell everybody to go over to our YouTube channel, hit the like and subscribe button. Also, you can hit the subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner of the video as well. So that way you can stay up to date with all the videos that we produce from fall camp with the football team, also with our live shows with Dudley, Otis, and Kevin as well. So make sure to head over there and like all those. And let's bring him on. All right, Dudley, man, how's it going?
Going good. How about yourself?
It's going pretty darn good. Going pretty good. Before we just kind of jump into the baseball thing, I want to touch on like what we were just talking about just a few minutes ago with the USA basketball team. Literally, the difference between gold and silver was half of a shoe. That's exactly what it was. And the U.S. ended up scoring a 1-point victory to take home the gold.
Yeah, it was an exciting game and a little bit of a local angle with Coach Neighbors. Obviously, having Coach Kelsey Plum when she was at Washington, she obviously made her free throws down the stretch. Big deal. The number one thing I got out of that game was why is Gabby Thomas not playing in the WNBA? She's a heck of a player. And but yeah, you have got to be ready. No matter how favored you are, and they were able to hold them off. Two exciting gold medal basketball games between the USA and France.
My God, Steph Curry last night, he was just unconscious in the last 3-4 minutes of the fourth quarter. I know that that's something that he's really been kind of leading up to, that he hasn't quite achieved professionally yet, because this is his first Olympics. And for him to come in and do the Steph things that we have seen so many times here on U.S. soil, and to give the folks in France the show that he did, I think it was kind of a full circling moment for him, because he was able to do that on some of the biggest stages in the world. Now it's the biggest stage outside of the U.S.
Yeah, it was great to watch. There was a lot of screaming going on here in Springdale between me and my beautiful wife Petra. Excited about how they were playing, but just he's clutch. There's never been any doubt that he's clutch. You got to give LeBron, Kevin Durant their flowers, as well as I guess the kids say these days. Just the entire team. A lot of people put a lot of stuff in there to get them to where they have the opportunity to win the gold. And I thought Steve Kerr put it best. It would have been the only nation in the world that if they had gotten a silver, their country would have been disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. And for rightful so too, because the players that the U.S. sent over are some of the best in the world. And I've been on record as saying this from the beginning, before the Olympics started, that I really feel like whenever the games come to Los Angeles in 2028, I really feel like France is going to be the team to beat.
Gap is closing, yeah, and you've got those three guys that I just mentioned aren't going to play in the 2028. They'll be LeBron will be 50, won't he? Yeah, but I got to give. I never thought I'd call him a glue guy, but he was a glue guy.
Yeah,
for them, and certainly deserved the MVP. And it's just great to watch. I know all the competitions are now over with live. They've got the closing ceremony tonight, and we can get Lissa back here, I guess.
I was going to say
she's had a good trip, but I bet she's ready to come home.
I can definitely imagine that too as well. Are you able to hear me okay, Dudley, on your end? Okay, sounds good. So I want to go, Michael. We're going to get to your comments here in just a moment as we kind of get everything kicked off here. I know that we're going to talk about baseball. We're going to talk about women's basketball. You mentioned Coach Neighbors, but kind of want to have that Olympic moment for just a minute, just because, Team USA men and women both faced France. They had Dawn Staley on after the game, and one of the things that she mentioned that they did ask her, but she kind of expanded on, was that the talent gap between the U.S. and the rest of the world has closed in, and more so than it ever has before. So I feel it's imperative that the U.S. keep producing or keep putting out the best team, maybe not the best individuals, but the best team for the 28 Olympics.
Yeah, definitely. You're going to have the right mix again. It's not just going to be the talent. You've got to have the right chemistry and all that. That's certainly what happened here in this event. That was, as we've talked about, was exciting to watch. But those guys, winners, they molded into a team. And, you can't play all 12. And I thought everybody did a good job at, the mix that they had to use against different teams.
Yep, you did. All right, so let's get into this. You alluded to this about a month and a half ago, that Arkansas baseball is going to be starting fall baseball in August, if I'm not mistaken, and then conclude in October. So it's kind of a little bit of a different field that Dave is kind of approaching than what he has in years past.
Yeah, they haven't given us an official date as of yet. I expect that'll come this week. But they started their first scrimmage was the weekend of September 6th through September 8th last year. Coach Van Horn during his thing said they were going to be starting it a couple weeks earlier. So that puts us, coming up here real soon. And I'm anxious to get out there, even though it's August. There's 31 new names on the roster. I think 15 have either hit the portal or gotten drafted. So it's going to be interesting to have the opportunity to see, what they've got. There's a lot of people who know more than me, Kendall Rogers, D1 baseball, and those type of guys who are very high on Arkansas. So, you hope that be able to get a good look at them.
One of the things that I do want to ask you about as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Brady Tiger, is he going to be, did he ever sign? Because I know that the deadline was the 1st of August, and I hadn't really seen or heard really too much of anything with that.
Yeah, all 10 of the recruits or current players who drafted ended up signing. I think $300,000 was what Brady Tiger got, and he's sure he's excited to get to going with the Boston Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool that Hudson was drafted by them too. The salaries or the signing bonuses varied. Obviously, Hagen Smith is a very rich young man right now. Really, Jared Spriglott, Ben McLaughlin didn't have a lot of leverage there. They got $50,000 and $75,000 respectively. But that's a good gig if you can get it too. And you still get to play baseball. I'm sure they'll give it a chance, maybe to be successful for them. But if not, that's a nice little starter pack that you have. So
it is, and I think I'm going to allude to this a little bit too, that with them signing, to me, that's not more about money, but more about trying to get their professional career started. Because let's face it, I mean, they may not be able to make that much, but I'm sure that they could get close to that much with NIL through the university as well. And so that kind of tells me that those guys, I mean, JSL, he's an older guy too. The clock's kind of ticking for some of those guys, because right around that 22, 23 age frame, that's where they kind of cuts off at, if either kind of crap or get off the pot type thing.
Yeah, and Stone Hewlett was another one that signed a free agent contract with the Los Angeles Angels. He's up there in age too. With the COVID year, a lot of these guys got as much as they could out of their college experience and the eligibility. And you wish them all well. It's going to be different for them. The minor leagues are not college, and you're gonna have to take care of yourself for a large part. Thankfully, the collective bargaining agreement that they've signed a couple of years ago got it to where now the minor leaguers have expenses and paid in terms of their apartments and stuff like that. That didn't used to be the case. You used to have to work side jobs, side hustles to be able to just exist. But yeah, a lot of those guys obviously had a lot of great moments for Razorback fans over the course of their careers. But as it is these days, pretty much at every college establishment, you've got almost a whole new roster. As again, I did mention, 31 different new players will be in here, 10 via the portal transfers. So they basically, as Coach Van Horn put it, had to tell another couple guys that Maximus Martin from Georgia and
great name, by the way.
Yeah, yes, and a young man from from Milwaukee. Was able to, they didn't find him a spot too. But it's one of those situations that you only have so much money, even though you've got the NIL these days. It'll be a little bit easier on everybody next year. 34 scholarships are going to be available instead of 11.7 and adding in the NIL. So, you should be the haves should be in good shape. The have-nots are, going to be struggling.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're going to start to see a little bit of a larger gap, not a little bit, but a larger gap in disparity between your Power 5 your D1 Power 5 teams that are already set up well versus some of these others, like TCU, for instance, maybe even a Dallas Baptist that have great teams that the playing field was kind of leveled in a way for them, that I think you're just going to start to see a little bit more disparity between those teams. Evansville, for instance, they came in here a couple years ago and got an early victory against the Hogs. And so with that being said, I think the university is going to have to invest in a lot more paper with the 31 new players coming on roster. You and I, everybody else is going to be pretty dependent on those rosters to be able. And I really think that they should put a face beside a name so that we can get a little bit more acquainted with these players. I know that Dave has had that turnover for the last 3 or 4 years, but I really feel like this might have been the largest turnover he's had so far.
Yeah, and that's that's the good thing about fall baseball. In addition to us seeing them play, get a chance to interview them, get to know them a little bit better. Obviously, since I do baseball recruiting for Hogville, I talk to most of them during the recruiting process. Some of them pop up out of nowhere, but it's an eclectic mix. I will say that they needed to replenish the outfield. They certainly did that. They had several spots on the infield that they needed to add some depth. Catching was a thing that they needed to add as well. They went out and got the nation's junior college leader in batting, and so I think they're in good shape. And obviously, I know one of the things we're going to talk about is the rotation. They went and got them 3 guys that should be, according to the experts, again, not to me, but according to the experts, that should be first day or early second day draft picks in the 2025 draft.
When you're talking about catcher there for just a second, and I want to bring this up because I'm going to touch on this in a little bit. Ryder Hellick had a hell of a summer up in the Cape Cod League. I really feel like if the junior college kid that comes in does take that spot, I really feel like Ryder can really slot right into that designated hitter spot, because the power that he was bringing this summer, I feel like if he can continue that, I think that's going to be an added plus that we didn't see last year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Ryder's not the starting catcher because of the time he's had in the program and what he, as you said, he did this summer. He had his moments last year, obviously, big home runs, clutch moments. He's a heck of a baseball player. They know that. They know they got 2 more years with him, and then he's going to be a high draft pick. But yeah, he went nuts this summer in Cape Cod, and that already talking to Patriot, I think that needs to be a vacation spot. Sometime soon. The only thing is, I don't think the prices are in a sports writer's price range. So we'll figure it out. But that is a good deal. They have going there. Luckily, I got to watch a lot of Cape Cod baseball games because they have them on the New England Sports Channel that I have on the DirecTV stream here.
Nice.
So I got to watch. It's like going down to Cherry Valley and some of these small towns and watching youth games or pony league games or all that. But it's not big, but it's a great deal for them. And Arkansas, I know, had 8 of its current players, or 8 players that were on the roster when summer started. Jason Jones, obviously, he's ended up at Oklahoma State. He had a good Cape Cod League too. Still a little bit more strikeouts than I'm sure he would like, but I think he'll go over there and probably flourish at Oklahoma State. But those guys, and they added in about 3 other guys that played up there. So you had at least 10 overall playing in the most prestigious league in the country. And then you had several others playing around in different places, New England leagues, Redlands League, every little league that you could get some at bats. That's the key thing during the summer. These guys that didn't get enough bats during the regular season needed to go up there to different places, get at bats, and that's certainly what they did. Most of them played anywhere from 40 to 45 games this summer, and then that includes the pitchers too. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was a good summer for all of them.
It was, and I want to kind of touch on this too for just a moment. Nolan Soua, for instance, he was playing for the Santa Barbara Foresters, only got 48 at bats. But what I noticed, Dudley, is that they had him slotted at shortstop and not first base.
Yeah, and the it's going to be interesting. And Coach Van Horn talked about how he could play in the outfield. He could play any of the corner spots in both middle infields. Now, obviously, Loy, you would think, would be the guy at shortstop. They are bringing in a couple of guys. Obviously, one they thought would be highly drafted that is going to get a chance to contribute as well. But you're going to find Sousa a place on that infield unless they out recruited him, and that that's what you're always trying to do. As you said, he got 48 at bats this summer, and him and V have their clothing line ready to go.
I would hope so. With the Flying Hawaiians there, I think that they got some room to work with on that. I want to talk a little bit about Ryder Hellick this summer. He did have a great summer. He led the Cape Cod League in home runs with 11. He was tied with Ethan Perry. With Ryder Hellick, which Ethan Perry, he went to South Carolina, or he is at South Carolina. With Ryder having the pop with his bat, he was batting .261 this during the season, and his OPS was .837. The one thing that did pop out to me was whenever I looked at Villalobos, his OPS was 977, I think it was. Double check on here on this just for a second here. But one of the things that I did notice that with him is that he was getting quality at bats time in and time out. And I think that that's also going to be extremely important because that's one of the things that Arkansas was lacking was some timely hits this season where it would be either, feast or famine. And I don't know what Nate Thompson's going to do to change that approach. Dave Van Horn, for instance, and kind of help him with that. But that's one of the things that I think a lot of fans are wanting to see is a little bit of a different approach at the plate. And with these guys in the summer leagues, the pop is there. It's just we didn't see it last year.
I'm old school. I get lost in the metrics a little bit, the OPS, the slugging percentage, the different things that are added into the stat lines. Now, what I notice from players, whether he's making contact in important situations, whether he has a ton of strikeouts, and with V this summer, he had cut down his strikeouts. He had more contact. Risk is something that the Cardinals are pretty much last in baseball with. They played the Royals this weekend here first. That is a big thing, whether it be high school, college, or whatever. That is something that they know they have to get better at this upcoming year. But as again, we talk about the approach, and we'll see what the approach is. But 31 different players, and obviously 15 are high school, 6 junior college, but yeah, it's pretty solid. I think they're all going to push for playing time right away. You don't really go to junior college players unless you think they're going to play right away. Now, obviously, Will Edmondson had some moments last year, but they're didn't maybe get as much time as he wanted at outfield, which it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Kendall Diggs is back, had his surgery, won't get to hit much at all during the fall, but will toward the end before the season starts be able to get some live pitching, as Van Horn said. Where are you going to slot him at? I mean, he can play first base, he can play right field, he can DH, there are a lot of different things. You're going to have him in the lineup, and I look forward to watching him play this year. We all know he struggled last year. Part of that had to be, the injury. The other part had to be pressing and having the weight of the world on him. I mean, people turned on him. Let's just be honest about that.
Yeah.
They care about their baseball team. You don't want the apathy. When you get that, you're going the wrong way. But, I look forward to watching him play here having the opportunity to kind of get a better taste in his mouth. And he's one of the most beloved guys in terms of the fans, or had been, still is with the younger group. I think. I mean, I've always been amazed at how he stands, how long he stays after game and signs autographs and stuff like that. So looking forward to seeing him get healthy and see what he can do this year.
Yep. Also, Michael Kefsky added in and says, sorry, Dudley, that Hagan didn't go to the St. Louis Cardinals. The White Sox seem to be a dumpster fire. I think seems is a massive understatement with 28, 29 wins this year. I mean, that is a legit dumpster fire. That's bigger than a John L. Smith dumpster fire.
Yeah, and the problem is, they made several trades, and even they helped the Cardinals out by sending us Eddie Fetty. But he's probably going to get a chance to pitch earlier in that organization than maybe he might in a few others. But boy, you analyze the trades that they made, and they really didn't get the best deal. I mean, they've got a brand new GM, and you wish him well. He got a little bit more money by going earlier, but yeah, he would have been perfect for my team.
Yep. Speaking of pitching, we were talking about the rotation. Coming into this season, you've got options. You've got Gage Wood. Do you keep Gabe Gackle in the bullpen, or do you elevate him to being a starter? You've got Will McIntyre coming back for the as the 2024 version of Brady Slavens. You've got some guys that are coming in with experience, but you also got some guys that are coming in from the portal that have just as much experience. So I think that Dave has got some area to play with on this. It's just getting that set rotation of who he wants to go. Because, I mean, it could be a different – I mean, do you see it where we have one rotation one weekend and then maybe a different rotation the next, just to see for the first couple of weekends on how that goes?
Now, that could be a case. You don't want to have that as a stable element of your team. Obviously, that was 2 years ago and really struggled. Ben Bobby is another name that, they've always relied on to be a midweek guy. They did sign 3 portal transfer guys that, are all really good. And in Landon Delcis from Ohio State, Zach Root from East Carolina, and Aiden Jimenez from Oregon State. Aiden is right-hander. The other 2 are left-handers. Always important in college baseball to have a mix there. As you talked about, Gabe Gackle, I think, is they plan on him being a frontline starter, if not their number 1 guy. I mean, it's going to be earned here. Gage had a good summer, and went 5-6 innings several times as a starter. They don't like them to go too long up there. They like to go 5 and 6, everybody gets a chance to pitch and all that. That's part of the development of the league. But those are guys. Parker Coyle had a decent summer. Christian Fouts, is he going to be at the end of the bullpen? And then you've got a bunch of high school kids that are coming here, Lance Davis, some of the others, that a lot of talented arms. I do not think they're going to lack for starters. And the cream should rise to the top. You would think that the 6 or so that I mentioned up top there will probably have the opportunities to do a lot of pitching in fall. But that's, again, fall ball is a big deal to see how you fare against college pitching, not against junior college pitching, not against high school pitching, but how you fare against college hitters, legit college hitters, because they don't sign you here unless you can play.
I want to ask you a question too, and this is kind of going off the subject of the pitchers for just a minute. And this is something I should have probably texted you about, but I know you'll be able to answer pretty easily. With the way that the college model is starting to replicate the professional model, do you think that there is going to be a point in time in the future, maybe not the near future, but the future, where you start to see more college teams having scrimmages against other teams versus having inter-squad scrimmages?
Hope so. Obviously, there's just a little bit of that now. And again, we're still waiting for the official announcement of whatever Arkansas is going to do at the tail end of fall baseball. Coach Van Horn mentioned that they would have a couple of games in cool settings Now, I don't think he's talking about the temperature. I think he's talking about, a different environment. So I'm anxious to see what those are. I anticipate they'll be against different programs and maybe some that they don't have on their schedule. You would think that, they would bring them in and whether, it's, I'm guessing they're not going to be here if it's in a cool setting, even though this is a cool setting, but you would just, I think we think you'd come up with some different words maybe. So I'm looking forward to it. Oliver, I'm coming to Tuesday's football practice, so be ready for some questions. That's Oliver Grigg, the young man who does a great job with the baseball program as their communications guy, and also obviously does a lot more things than just baseball. But I'm talking his ear off on Tuesday morning.
Well, you might have to grab the other ear because I think Bob Holt's got the other ear because last couple practices I was at, he was bending it quite a lot. So I think he might have had some of the same questions that you've had too as well. I want to talk a little bit about coaching before we wrap up here for just a minute. Matt Hobbs did an incredible job last year. He was recognized for that as, if I'm not mistaken, was the D1 pitching coach of the year. Assistant coach of the year. And, I feel like the fan base is kind of split when it comes to the coaching personnel that Arkansas has right now. Dave made that choice to not move in a different direction with Nate Thompson because, and you and I have talked about, it's his recruiting aspect that far and away takes over some of the things that you might see at the plate because he's able to bring in the kids that they might not get. And so I think that was one of the things that Dave kind of had to weigh a little bit. And I mean, I may be looking too much into it, but if you let a guy like Nate Thompson go, you're also looking at those fertile grounds that he's also tapped into that you might not get, you might miss on some kids.
Yeah. If you let Nate Thompson go, you better bring in Tony Vitello as your assistant. I mean, those have been guys that have really been a benefit to Coach Van Horn and recruiting at this university, over the past decade or what there. Obviously, when you look at the players that come in, some have been hits, not that many have been misses, but he's been a big force behind that. Coach Van Horn is a loyal guy. And if you look behind the numbers, it's neither as good as some people think it is, and certainly not as bad as some others think it is. Every once in a while, false narratives get thrown out there. They did struggle last year at the plate. There is no, you can go through metrics and you can go through eye tests and all that. They struggled at the plate last year, but that has not been a thing that has been consistent in terms of runners in scoring position, runs scored, that thing. I mean, the year before it was they were on Coach Hobbs and the medical staff because everybody was getting hurt. They must maybe you need to get a new medical guy. Well, you got through this year with hardly anybody getting hurt. So now was the luck? Did the guy suddenly learn how to treat injuries and all that? Doctors, baseball is tough. I think it was Taj Bradley that's at Tampa Bay now. He was having such a good season, 23 years old. He did not start pitching until he was a senior in high school. And, he credits it as a reason that not only is he a well-rounded player, but his arm doesn't have as many pitches as these guys do that start in these youth travel leagues, which are, great and all that. But I'm saying that, sometimes you can drive that arm and it gives you the opportunity to have a lot of injuries. I didn't get the opportunity to play college baseball and had to go to a farm and get on a tractor quicker than I would have liked to. But I know that my elbows are better because of that.
Yeah.
So and you put stress on young arms, young elbows, and it's going to come back, to get you later on. And what's interesting is it seems to me that the Tommy John surgery is a cleanup thing now that makes you better, but you don't want to have it because you have to miss a year.
Yeah, that's so crazy too. Because, one of the things that was stressed on, like when you were a kid and I was a kid, was throwing breaking pitches. And I've talked with some players' parents regarding this, Hunter Holland's mom, Patrick Wicklander's dad. one of the things that, they have pressed upon these kids is the breaking stuff. And then whenever you start to go and you talk to coaches above the high school level, that's the first thing they say is don't throw it. And that's where you're starting to see that pushback, because parents think that these travel ball coaches are the know all be all of this. And come to find out, maybe not so much. And like you said, preserving your arm a little bit more, maybe playing the field instead of pitching, and then starting to go into that. I wonder if you'll see a shift with some of the younger kids and their parents and saying, hey, maybe not pitch as much, so that you're more well-rounded, so that whenever you do get into that spot where you might be able to, you're not going to have as many miles, like you said.
Yeah, and I also am a big proponent of playing a variety of sports. Now, once you get to the 10th and 11th grade, if you want to, put your eggs all in one basket, and I've got a young man who's a family relative who's pitched for the Sticks this summer. Nathan Corbett has a chance to be a really good pitcher. He's now concentrating on baseball after being playing football and other stuff for Harding Academy. But I'm happy that he's doing that. But I'm happy he had the opportunity to do a variety of sports. Not only is it good for your mind, good for muscles and all that, and I'm not a nutritionist, but for sure, and not a doctor. But I know what I went through. I've watched. I've covered recruiting for so long. I've watched what other kids go through. And I do believe there's a lot to be said for playing a variety of sports early on before you decide to concentrate. And you don't need to just, at 6-year-old, decide you're going to be the third baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals. It might not work out.
That's true. That is true. I really hope that the Cardinals can do something with that front office this offseason, because let's face it, the Ollie Marmol experiment, nope, it's over. I think it should be over. I know that St. Louis is just a couple of games over 500, but with the talent that they have, they should be at 90 wins easy. So we'll have to see where that goes. But Dudley, man, I want to thank you for jumping on today, and we'll get back on whenever some of the fall baseball stuff starts to kind of take flight, so that way, the information that you're getting, we can get out to everybody else as well. And
summer's about over, my man. Summer's about over.
Time off is about over as well, because with practice every day now, it's going to be going from here till probably the second week in January, I think, right around. So we're going to be pretty dang busy. So everybody jump on, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button over here on our YouTube channel, so that way you can jump on with us at any time that we go live. Also, you can check out all the clips too that we catch from practice. And I want to thank everybody for jumping on today with us, and go Hogs.
Fred, that's enough, buddy.